This video is sponsored by the Tennessee Department of Agriculture AgTag Grant Program and the University of Tennessee at Martin. Alternative energy issues in America. What issues are driving the conversation? Four key factors in this issue are environmental concerns, national security, global instability, and the American pocketbook. Many consumers and voters are concerned with increased levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which can be attributed to traditional engines that use fossil fuels. Ethanol has been shown to have cleaner emissions than traditional gasoline. Americans are becoming more aware of the environmental impact of transportation. For example, programs such as Live Green, Go Yellow by General Motors are gaining strength in the marketplace. National security is another driving factor. Energy is vital to the United States economy and our national security. In times of war or natural disaster, the ability to have a steady supply of fuel is critical. To increase our security, it is a common idea that our nation needs to become self-sufficient in meeting its energy needs. Much of the global supply of petroleum energy comes from regions known for political instability. The Middle East continues to be an area of concern for the world. With increasing instability in the region, the possibility of supply disruption becomes greater. Supply disruptions result in higher prices for oil products. The American pocketbook is another major factor. As gas and diesel prices soar, Americans have become more vocal for action. This has placed more pressure on elected officials to find solutions to the high fuel costs faced by consumers. As prices increase, we expect to see more emphasis placed on renewable and alternative fuels in America. Although the U.S. is a major producer of petroleum, demand for oil and gas exceeds domestic production. As a result, over half of the oil used in the United States is imported. Gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles account for roughly 2/3 of total petroleum use in the United States. As global supplies of oil become tighter and other developing countries increase demand, petroleum prices should increase. Since the U.S. relies heavily on imported oil, it is very vulnerable to supply disruption. Agriculture does have a place in the energy discussion in the United States. Corn and soybeans are current crops of focus as sources of energy as they are primary components to ethanol and biodiesel. Groups such as the National Corn Growers Association and the American Soybean Association are active in the energy debate. There are, however, new players in the energy discussion. Switchgrass is receiving much attention as a possible energy crop to produce ethanol. Much research still remains, but cellulosic ethanol is expected to play a major role in the future of alternative energy. There is a call to energy security and independence in the United States.
To build a future of energy security, we must trust in the creative genius of American researchers and entrepreneurs and empower them to pioneer a new generation of clean energy technology. Our security, our prosperity, and our environment all require reducing our dependence on oil.
The Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007 is going to have a larger impact on U.S. agriculture than any other piece of legislation in years. It is expected to have a huge impact on the types and quantities of crops grown by producers across America. One highlight of the bill is a corporate average fuel economy standard, which sets a target fuel efficiency of 35 miles per gallon for the combined fleets of cars and light trucks by the model year in 2020. Another highlight is the Renewable Fuel Standard. The law sets a modified standard that begins at 9 billion gallons produced in 2008 and rises to 36 billion gallons to be produced in the year 2022. This provision will increase the need for energy crops to be produced. The new law is intended to attack higher fuel prices from two sides. First, the demand side is addressed by increased fuel economy, which should decrease demand for gas. Secondly, the supply side is addressed by the increased production of alternative fuels. This will increase the overall supply in the fuel market. As more alternative fuel is available, less oil may be used for transportation. This will reduce the demand for petroleum products, resulting in lower prices. U.S. corn acreage has increased at a rapid rate. In 2007, approximately 95 million acres were planted. The question that everyone is looking to answer is how much will be planted in the future. As corn prices rise, it is expected that producers will respond by planting more corn. This would be achieved by shifting farmland from producing other crops to corn. As the demand for ethanol increases, an increase in corn demand would be anticipated as well, likely resulting in additional corn production. This will have a profound effect on agriculture in America. Corn acreage will be driven by the cost of food and fuel and by the market prices for corn. Ethanol production has steadily increased in the United States since the late 1990s. As ethanol becomes more widely distributed and accepted by consumers, it is expected that more will be produced. The Renewable Fuel Standard will require additional biofuels each year to come from various sources. Requirements for conventional biofuels will rise to 15 billion gallons per year. Advanced and cellulosic biofuels will make up the difference. Much research is needed in order to produce the 36 billion gallons mandated by year 2022. Agriculture will play a key role in meeting the standard by producing switchgrass, corn, and soybeans. Ethanol production plant locations are generally determined by two factors. The first is proximity to large corn supplies. The second is cost of transportation associated with production supplies and distribution of the ethanol product. In 2007, there were 142 existing ethanol plants in the United States. These plants had a capacity to produce 8.9 billion gallons of ethanol per year. At the same time, there were 67 plants under construction that would provide an additional 5.1 billion gallons annually. Once those facilities are online, the United States will have the capability to produce 14 billion gallons of ethanol each year. Soybean acreage has fluctuated over the past several years in the United States. In 2007, there was a decrease in planting with less than 64 million acres. However, heavy planting followed in 2008, with soybeans consuming over 74 million acres of land. Most producers choose whether to plant corn, soybeans, or other commodities. The marketplace typically drives their choices. As prices increase for a particular crop, it usually gains more planted acreage, which creates a very volatile market. Biodiesel facilities are located throughout the United States. They do not exhibit a tight location pattern like ethanol plants, but are more dispersed. Biodiesel is made primarily from soybean oil, but includes other vegetable oils as well. Its production is gaining prominence in the United States and worldwide. Tennessee agriculture plays a prominent role in alternative energy production in the future. In 2007, Tennessee farmers planted 870,000 acres of corn and over 1 million acres of soybeans. Tennessee agriculture produces lots of what can be called energy crops. With future projections of increased ethanol and biodiesel use in the United States, these acreage numbers could increase. In order for ethanol to account for 20% or 31.5 billion gallons of fuel usage in the U.S., over 95 million acres of corn would be required. Tennessee would be included in this production, and additional corn would need to be planted throughout the state. Increased use of corn for fuel would likely result in higher corn prices. The higher price would make corn producers very happy. However, other industries such as feedlots that utilize corn would be less enthusiastic. There are several scenarios for the possible future of American agriculture as it relates to alternative energy. Many project that the use of corn as a feed for livestock will decline, and that beef and dairy units will use an increased amount of dried distillers' grains. These are a byproduct of ethanol production. Given the current climate of high commodity prices in agricultural production, we would expect to see some changes in various agricultural industries. As the price of corn increases, producers will likely substitute a cheaper feeding source. As more ethanol is produced, dried distillers' grains will be available to dairy and beef operations. It is possible to foresee a shrinking of the pork and poultry markets due to increased feed costs. Pork and poultry are unable to utilize dried distillers' grains as efficiently as beef and dairy. In the end, remember that transportation costs have a direct impact on the cost of food and every other consumable product on the market. As fuel prices rise, cost of products will increase as well.